you have to ask yourself a question. What was the value of COVID? COVID was used to separate you from everybody. It was created and used so they could isolate you. Because they found out when they tortured American soldiers, if they were isolated from their fellow soldiers, which is why they closed the churches and kept the strip clubs open, is when you were separated from them and you were separated from your family, which the families couldn't even get in to say goodbye to their loved ones when they were dying. They found out that that was a very effective way to reach the mind and the heart and the emotions of the American people, because they found that out through torturing soldiers. And so that isolation, they coupled it afterwards with propaganda, pounding with propaganda. That's why MSNBC has a 2-hour program with the rottenest propagandist I've ever seen, which is Morning Joe. And they have him repeat it. Him and his girlfriend. I don't call that his wife. If you've messed around with each other and you were married to somebody else, you're not really married. That's your girlfriend. You've been playing around in adultery for a long time. That's your problem. But that's how I see it. So I say how I see it. That's one of the most evil men in this whole nation. And then you have those that, well, they claim to be Catholic, they claim to be Christian, and they are on Fox News. But yet when the time came to tell the truth about the election, they immediately were the first ones to name Biden as president, knowing that nothing was in there enough to prove that was true. But everybody was in on the fix. Everybody knew that that's what they were working towards, was to get him in. So on one hand, one of these people, they claim to really love Trump and they respect him and everything. And now they're so turned on him, you wouldn't even believe it. You know, I remember the first time there was protesters against Trump. They were paid protesters, and it wasn't very big, but boy, they blasted it all over the news. And they said, oh, how bad it was and how they had to drag people out of there and all this. None of it was true, but they were reporting that and they were lying about it. So I wrote and showed a video to Fox News that where they're saying that this never happened before. I showed them a protest about another person running for office, and they did far worse than just leading them out. I mean, they actually pounded them down, but they didn't report on that. They didn't tell the truth way back then, and that's how long ago. So there are things that you don't even see or you don't even know. How did I find these things? God just said, Marion, look here. And I did. Marion, listen to this. I did. But when he said, Marion, don't even bother with that. I don't. I haven't watched Fox News since the election, 2020. And I don't intend to, because they're all traitors. They go with every wind of doctrine. They change. And to make themselves be seen and make themselves be known, they change for this side and that side, and they don't even know where they're going. They don't have any idea that it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Because once you are done drinking that cup, once he gets you to that place where he allows you to think that that he's never going to come and deal with you, that's the day he's going to come. And once you get to a place that you dare to touch what God wants, God is not going to let that go. He really isn't. Eternity is a long time. To suffer and endure eternity in hell is a long, long time. And it's too big a price to pay. But there's information out there that will tell you exactly what's coming. And it's not by prophesying, well, this is going to happen. It's not. It's by God giving you wisdom to tell you what they plan on doing the way God did me. He showed me what they plan on doing with this mind. And he let me feel the power of it. And if I could barely come out of it in my condition, as a Christian and as powerful and strong as I am, where are you? Where are you when you're letting these people in? You are voting them in. And you're saying, well, I don't like, you're not supposed to like anybody. If it's after personality and the propaganda they fed, you are doing yourself a wrong. You, like I said before, it's going to haunt you when your children hurt from what you've done in that voting booth. It's going to haunt you. It's going to come. You know why? Because God's going to bring it before your mind and heart, and you're not going to be able to bear it. And I'll tell you why. Because it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And when he says send somebody that you know is holy and true, you know has wisdom that you've never seen, and you won't listen, you're asking for trouble. I'm not talking about serving God. I'm talking about even in the flesh, the nation itself. I am sure some of you are old enough to remember the day when, if you did wrong, you were afraid of that policeman. You were afraid that you would get caught. You didn't steal or lie or cheat on purpose because you were afraid to put your hand on that Bible and swear false witnesses. You were afraid to do it. And if you didn't have the fear of God, you paid for it. But now in some places they have the Quran there, and like Obama said, that's the Holy Quran. Read it. You'll find out there's nothing holy about it. There is no moral excellence in that book. It's evil. It gives the power to do evil. It strengthens it. It functions in it. So say what you want. Think what you want. Many of you truly belong to God, but many of you don't know what you're doing. Many of you have no idea. And this is the sad part, because you're terrified that you may take the mark of the beast, and they've got you all tangled up into it. But you're already ripened for it. When you let these evil people in office, your mind is ripened to go and do that. And I can remember praying for someone that by the time that they left this earth, that God would never allow them to go through losing their head for serving Satan and not God. And immediately that person got cancer and died. Gave his life to the Lord before he died, but he died. And I'm only saying that was in God's mercy. For God tells you there's going to come a day where you're going to want to die and you can't. You're going to face what you've done. There are people on this earth that are going to face what they have done. That's why he says when he comes back, you're going to holler and scream, let the rocks fall upon us, rather than see the face of God in this coming in glory. Because I'm telling you, the last place you ever in your entire life want to be is in the presence of the living God. Because your spirit, your body, and everything about you will never endure it. Many of you will die from it. Because God is a consuming fire, and your whole body and mind and spirit will be consumed because you chose to go with evil rather than good. And you chose to listen to the lies rather than good. Now, I'm not talking to those who belong to Jesus Christ. Those people are set. They've set the seal. They've made up their mind. I am going this way with God. And I encourage them and strengthen them. but I have to warn those who are terribly disobedient, who listen to pieces of my messages, and I know that they do, because something inside of them tells them they're not quite right, and they are ripe to hear the truth. And so as God stirs them to lead them to repentance, I must speak it. And it's not that I love to speak it or I want to frighten you, because God's children should never be frightened of the unknown and what is coming. They should be positive they're not going to go through it. And that is the thing you need to understand, that Satan has no power to do one thing to you, to your family, to anything. The only power he has is if you give it to him through disobedience. That's the only power he will have. He does not have the power to do one thing to you. I know some people say, well, can a Christian be cursed? Yes, a Christian could have, because what that person does in his fellowship with people who will curse him. I've warned you. I've told you that there are people on this earth that will smile to your face, kiss you on a cheek like a true Judas, and go into their prayer closet and betray you completely and pray control over you, all the while you're looking at them thinking they're real Christians. And that letting them in as a real Christian lets them into your life to take over your life and do as they choose, because you gave them that power. And so Satan can use them. And what you need to do, and that's why I talk about set apart to be sanctified very often, because that is what Jesus Christ talked about. He talked about sanctifying the church, and he didn't talk about sanctifying it as a corporate place, even communion. He didn't talk about that. He did not talk about you necessarily doing it corporately. Communion is exactly what that word says. It is a communication between you and God. It is a communication of expression of how you believe him, how you love him, and you know that he died for you. And you also know that he resurrected for you. You know that he suffered for your body to be healed. You know that he suffered for the blood to erase sin. Those two things are very important to understand. And a lot of people don't understand it. They sit down in a corporate setting and they say, well, take a few minutes to talk to God to make sure you're worthy. You tell me where, if you know you're sinning, where you can talk to God for a few minutes and make everything right and worthy. And then you wonder why you're not hot for God the way you used to be. You wonder why you suffer this and suffer that. That's why. Because you are partaker of communion unworthily. When I had problems, the first thing I ran to was, Lord, did I take communion unworthily? Did I think that I was okay with you when I wasn't? Is this way? This is what you have to do. If I have to do it, where are you? You're no different than me. We're both human beings.